Ayesha and I will share this little reminiscence of Rahul in connection with LISIM, the summer school that we have been organizing for last 12, 13 years, of which Rahul was an integral part. Some persons leave you with an impression, and some persons leave you with a gap. Rahul was of the second type, but more. He leaves you with a gap that you didn't know existed. Then how do you come up with words of grief for such a person and so soon? Our articulation fails, our sanity for grammar fails. It is impossible for us to describe either concretely or coherently our own relation with him, because he truly left us with a gap we didn't know existed. Necessarily, therefore, it will have to be abstract. Rahul was an important part of our life. We didn't see him often enough, and even the little time he was around, it was always a challenge to keep him tied to us for long. However much we wanted it and tried, yet in some magical way, he had occupied a large part of our lives, some abstract, timeless part of our lives, with a promise to spend more time together in some abstract future, or to have the strange feeling of having spent a longer time together in some unknowable but abstractly existing past. We would complain often about the real absence of his presence, and yet be torn between regret and promise, and bargain for deals that didn't realize most of the times. Other times, when we could snatch time away, and those were very recent conferences in the last few years, few FOSSSILs, Constance, Seoul, Paris, Delhi, and of course, the last 6 LISIMs. The effects of those short but intense closeness lasted for a much longer time, so as to make us feel assured of his abstract presence more than his real presence, occupying a large part of our lives. This extended abstract presence is what we are going to miss the most, because those short bursts of real presence will no longer take place. And to repeat what Amrit has just said, speaking about Rahul in the past tense is extremely difficult. And for us, his friends, as people who have organized FOSSSIL's summer school, listen together with Rahul, Paroma, Summer, because our summer school is always firmly set in the future time. It is always the next listen, because as soon as we meet up for one, we begin to plan for the next one. The busiest of us all in terms of travel and research activity, and many low-cost airlines have been kept afloat, flying Rahul to destination that even they would never have imagined ticketing anyone to. Rahul was the one person who was always assured to be there on time. More accurately, one day or 1 week, as it was the last time, early, for all the next lessons that were ever to come. In every possible way, Rahul was both the present and the future of the small but transformative experiment that LISIM was conceived to be, a non-hierarchical, intimate space full of questions, learning, and laughter, which is as rewarding for the teacher as the taught. He was the one in the generation after ours to take charge that the idea behind LISIM continues to live and grow intellectually and socially. Aisha.
Yeah. Rahul's impact on the generative linguistic scene at LISIM, and particularly on the study of the syntax and semantics of all the Dravidian languages, cannot be emphasized enough. The first few editions of LISM were Indo-Aryan heavy because most of the organizers were in the north and the Himalayas are far and expensive to travel to for students and faculty from the south. So therefore, for the first few years, only research questions in Dravidian languages were only occasionally posed. But once Rahul joined the LISM movement, there was a transformation within a couple of years. Rahul's extraordinary abilities to engage both theoretically and empirically with what was being discussed, to find the examples or ideas that either made a simple query into a research problem or served as the key to unlock a gridlock, and his ability to do it in the most pacifist and relaxed manner ever. Always taking the youngest and the least knowledgeable member in that group along, but without the slightest hint of patronage, was an education not only for all the students in the group, but the two of us as well, and perhaps even more so. Every LISM that Rahul was part of led to exciting new work by the LISM group members. And Rahul in particular, often jointly and often in the same year. A testament to how completely he took the collaboration that teaching is. For now, at least, a huge yawning hole occupies the spots where the Dravidian group could be spotted during LISM, chatting peaceably in order to make the most insightful presentations of all, while the Hindi and Bangla groups mill around chaotically, frazzled by the pressure of LISM workshops. But we don't know that Rahul has, in his short life, left us a legacy rich enough to have that hole filled from the very next LISM onwards. One of the greatest joys of LISM for us over the last decade has always been the fact that we get to spend an uninterrupted 2 weeks with like-minded linguists, and especially Rahul. Like he was with everyone else who knew him, Rahul littered LISM with the gift of his time, care, and gentleness. For a person who never made any demands for attention, he is in every frame of our memories of the last 6 LISMs, keeping us fed, keeping our throats lubricated, leading bands of hikers up the mountains twice a day, asking destructive questions in the kindliest of manners, discussing linguistics and its future late into the night, undoing my and our laboriously balanced budget by designing impossibly expensive LISM apparel and stationery, and joining in the long-lasting teasing and arguments that signify friendship. In one such memory can be found a poem by Milton Berle that can serve as our homage to Rahul. It was sent by him as part of a teasing exchange that we were having about Utpal Lahiri's predicament when he was going to be faced with languages that lack an even. I'd rather be a could be if I cannot be an are. Because a could be is a maybe who is reaching for a star. I'd rather be a has been than a might have been by far. For a might have been has never been, but a has was once an are. We are grateful to have known, loved, and learned from Rahul. For us, Rahul was and will now remain forever an are. Before I conclude, we would like to make one final announcement. So the core committee, or now what is left of it, of the FOSSSIL executive committee met on the 28th of July. And we decided to organize a pre-LISM, a preschool open call 2-day workshop based on emerging themes from Rahul's body of work in May, June 2021. FOSSSIL has also decided to publish an anthology of selected papers resulted from the workshop to be edited by early career ex-LISMers. A workshop committee will see through the organization of the workshop and the resulting publication. This event, we hope, will kindle interest in the formal properties of Dravidian languages, especially the semantic ones, so that Rahul's academic legacy is carried forward and sustained meaningfully.